Hey everyone, happy to have you with us here on the American Huddle. Alongside Andy Gresh, I'm Haley Outen. Week 3 was a big one for the Americans, some statement performances and wins. Andy, what were some of your biggest takeaways from last weekend as we look ahead to week 4?
Well, I think a lot of teams in the league have put themselves in position for prove-it type weeks. Tulane and Houston, UCF taking on Pitt. I mean, heck, SMU and TCU. You know, SMU's 3-0, but you look at the schedule, okay, they played teams. But now they're playing a real team in TCU. So I think we're going to find out, Haley, how high-end some of the teams in the American will be this week off of their great play last week.
You mentioned statement wins, and there is certainly a chance for that on Thursday night, a big conference matchup between Tulane and Houston. In fact, Houston quarterback D'Eriq King called this game a must-win. How true is that for both of these teams if ultimately, in the end, when it comes to the American Championship, they want to control their own destiny?
Well, we talked before about the transition going on at Houston with Dana Holgorsen, and you know, familiarity, there really isn't a lot right now in terms of that offense, that system, that whole group they're learning together. Whereas at Tulane, Willie Fritz has been building this for a while now, Haley, and Justin McMillan, 4-0 as a starter at home, 4 different 100-yard rushers this season. The Houston defense, to me, is in a little bit of trouble. I think Tulane's going to be able to run the ball on them. If they do, it'll limit the throws from McMillan, make him more efficient. And Houston is going to have to make the most of limited offensive possessions. To me, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Houston offense to try to not necessarily be a point a minute, but if they only get the ball for 28 minutes this game, they better find a way to have 28 to 35 points. I think Tulane wins a big one at home against Houston. Maybe not necessarily because Tulane has better talent. They're just further along in their process compared to where Dana Holgorsen is at Houston.
You can catch Houston at Tulane. That's at 8 Eastern Thursday night on ESPN. Looking ahead to this Saturday, it's our last Saturday in the American with a full non-conference slate. So a chance to make a statement against some other conferences. Starting off with UCF at Pitt, the Knights are coming over a convincing, dominant win over Stanford. However, Andy, this week, UCF 15 in the AP poll, 16 in the coaches poll. Why are they not higher after 3 completely convincing wins so far in 2019?
Because UCF, and this really ticks me off, is the only team in college football, Haley, where they finish great, and then the next year that greatness gets forgotten in terms of the preseason rankings. But every year they just say, screw it. If we go win, it's going to take care of everything else. They're going against the Pitt team that they beat last year, 45-14, but that was in Orlando. And I would like to think, and to all of the college football writer rubes out there who don't pay attention to the American, if UCF goes on the road and beats what is considered a big boy in the ACC, considering they were in the conference title game last year, I don't know how you don't move them up significantly, and I don't know how that doesn't get on the radar of most people to pay attention to UCF in October and November and to think that they may have a chance to crash the party that I don't think they'll let. It's like trying to get in the club, right? There's a bouncer there. Well, there's always bouncers outside the door of the college football playoff room keeping UCF out, and it's ridiculous.
As UCF looks to make another statement, hopefully this week against Pitt, when you look in the quarterback room, it's something that we've talked about here throughout the week. There is so much depth, and we saw true freshman Dillon Gabriel absolutely light it up against Stanford. I mean, on their first 4 drives, he led his team to a touchdown. Is he the for sure starter heading into this week in your mind?
I think so, because he's hot number 1, and he's giving you no reason to take him out of the lineup. Now, let's also be real here. It doesn't hurt that he is a freshman. And if you're Josh Heupel and you're looking at it, it's the whole, man, this is the guy that I'm developing. This is the guy I know is going to be here for a couple of years, and I could start to add layers to the offense and take advantage of the talent around the quarterback. So while you do worry that a young freshman will go on the road and maybe have a moment where they soil themselves in a big spot, I don't think so. This kid looks really cool, really calm, and look, if he stinks for a quarter, you've got other people to be able to turn to, and that's a luxury most teams in college football don't have.
All right, well, UCF taking on Pitt, that's 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, and depending on where you live, ABC or ESPN too. Over on FS1, same time, it's going to be a battle for the Iron Skillet. SMU heads down the road to take on TCU. Andy, what will this game tell us about the legitimacy of Sonny Dykes' group here in year 2?
Yeah, this is a big jump in competition here, Haley. And if you look at SMU, they got to continue to be great on third down. Right now, they're dominating offensively on third down, converting at 52%. We know that Coach Patterson and TCU normally has a great defense, so that number will be tested in terms of Buechele, the quarterback, and Sonny Dykes' ability to be able to keep it rolling on third down. That said, I think it's a little bit like the Houston-TCU game where SMU is going to want to try to spread it out, throw the ball, score a ton of points. TCU, I think they're going to want to run the rock, play defense. Very tough for SMU. However, if they win this one, look out, because they will have unlocked something with that football team that makes you realize that they might have a chance to be great this year.
A team that has a chance to be great this year as well could potentially be Temple. The nation has been talking about the Owls this week, especially after that defensive performance against Maryland on Saturday. They held Maryland, Andy, to just 17 points after the Terps had put up a combined 142 in their first couple games this season. What did Temple prove last weekend?
Well, they proved they got guts. And, we had talked in the whole Ask Andy about, hey, you had 3 goal line stands, and that's great, but you allowed them down there and had to come up with 3 goal line stands. So there's a couple different ways you can look at it. But I love the guts that Temple plays with. And look, whether it was Jeff Collins, whether it was prior administrations, you look at Matt Rule, who ended up going to Baylor, he laid the groundwork for Temple tough. And other coaches have come in and been able to follow that up. And to me, that's what jumps out, is that, they're the prototypical kind of Northeast, blue collar, doesn't matter how we get it done, just find a way to get it done kind of team. And that's what I love about Temple. And look, them matching up against Buffalo has not gone their way. We remember their days in a whole other conference where Buffalo was really good at the time. However, I think Temple has got some comeback or some payback on the mind, and I expect Temple to win pretty handily over a Buffalo team, and Temple will go do that on the road in an environment that they are admittedly used to but haven't had a ton of success at.
All right, UConn at Indiana. The Huskies coming off of a bye week, but they did look much improved against Illinois here a couple weeks ago. They had their own chances to win that game. How do you expect UConn to come out in their first game on the road this season?
Yeah, I think it'll be tough. You got a true freshman quarterback and Jack Zargaitis, and I've worked on saying that kid's name like for a day and a half, and I'm sure I still screwed it up. But look, true freshman quarterback on the road. UConn's been up and down defensively. They've been okay. They haven't been great. Indiana is a team that a little further in their team building. I think Indiana ends up running the ball. The UConn defense ends up having some issues. But you can tell that Randy Edsall is investing in the future.
Another coach that's investing in the future is Mike Houston from ECU in his first season. Last week, tough week for the Pirates on the road at Navy. But this week, they host William and Mary at home, a chance to continue learning, have a home game. What would be a win in Coach Houston's mind coming out of this William and Mary game?
A win. I mean, losing to Bill and Martha doesn't work for them. They need to win this game, and I know that Mike Houston is familiar with William and Mary because of his time at James Madison last year. That said, this is a get-right game for ECU, and I don't think it's going to be one of those, we need to win the game by 30. It's let's just find a way to win the game and continue to take steps forward. Mike Houston, compared to what Scotty Montgomery was doing, what Mike Houston wants to do, it's a very big change that they're undertaking there. And ECU will take it on the chin at times this season, but they're going to be better for it. Mike Houston has won everywhere he's been, and he normally turns it around pretty quick. So expect some strides to be made in the second half of the season.
Last but certainly not least, Tulsa will host Wyoming. And Andy, the Golden Hurricane last week, they put up a serious fight against Oklahoma State. They went into halftime leading 21-20. But one of the stats that really stuck out to me, 17 penalties for a school record 156 yards against OSU. And that's going to be tough to come back from, especially when you're playing good teams.
Yeah, no question. And Tulsa, you could tell, is better, and they're on the cusp, right? They were competitive in Michigan State. You mentioned the Oklahoma State game. Well, Shamari Brooks is going to have a third 100-yard game and more for them to be able to beat this Wyoming team. Hey, the Cowboys have won 7 in a row here, so it's not like they don't come in on a little bit of a roll. However, given where Tulsa is at, I expect them to be able to win this game and to be able to run the ball to be able to win this game. This would be a tough loss. Like, to me, the way they played against those other Power 6 teams, you get a team like Wyoming in your yard, better find a way to get a win, and I think Tulsa will.
All right, so you're predicting a win on Thursday from Tulane.
That's
making
right.
a statement over Houston, but when you look ahead to Saturday and a couple of those really big non-conference statement matchups, the ones that stand out, UCF Pitt and SMU TCU.
Yeah, those are the ones, Haley, that I think have the ability to resonate across the country. If you're thinking respect for the American Athletic Conference, if SMU and UCF get the job done, there's going to be a lot of people across the country who will finally open their eyes as to what is actually going on in the American Athletic Conference versus worried about Group of 5, Power 5, Party of 5, all that stuff.
All right, last question I have for you. So UCF, a lot of people have been talking about the polls this week and that the Knights deserve to be higher. Memphis is kind of on the outside of the top 25 looking in. Same thing with Temple. Do you think next week we expect to see two teams from the American at least in the top 25?
Yes, I very much do. And UCF will climb. There's a chance SMU could end up sliding in there. But yes, I think we're going to have two, if not maybe three, in the top 25. And if we don't have three in the top 25, it'll be in that whole receiving votes category, which is what you need. It's like the waiting room to get in to go see the doctor. You know, like part of the reason why Temple didn't jump was because they weren't in there. Get in there first, then you got the ability to get in that top 25. All
right, well, should be an exciting week across the American in week 4. Make sure to follow along with our coverage all weekend long, starting on Thursday night on Twitter at American_FB. And as always, you can find all of our highlights as well on Facebook. Thanks again to Andy for coming in. It's been a great week. We'll see you back here next week on the American Huddle. Have a great weekend.